welcome to Lumio Palooza 2026. I cannot believe we're here. It has already been an amazing day of sessions from all over the world. We've already heard so many great things, seen so many awesome activities, and I'm super pumped to be here with you today for our keynote. We've got something so special and very different in store for you. But before we get started, I'm going to go through a couple of announcements. So first things first, if you have not heard yet, this is something new that we're doing, but we have a Lumio Palooza social sharing challenge. So throughout the day today and tomorrow, all we ask is that at any session that you attend, take a screenshot of something that you saw, something that you've created during one of your make and take sessions. Go ahead and follow us on your preferred social media, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, X, and share it out and tag us at Lumio Social. You can do that in our Facebook group, Lumio Educators, or just on your own social platform, and make sure that you tag us. And for each post that you make, which can be an unlimited amount, you get entered to win a $25 gift card of your choice. And we're going to announce those at the end of the day. We're super, super pumped. This is something really exciting. We love to see what you're taking away from your sessions, whether it's a cool activity that you saw, a comment that was very interesting, something that you're walking away from these 2 days really thinking about. So go ahead and tag us at Lumio Social and then use the hashtag LumioPalooza 2026. And again, you can do that in our Facebook group, Lumio Educators. You can post on Instagram and tag us on LinkedIn, Twitter, or X. We are looking for those throughout the day and adding every post to a list to do a draw. And if this is your very first time with Lumio, if you're a first-time Lumio customer, we are really excited to offer 30% off your very first year purchase of Lumio Standard. Just a reminder that Standard gives you access to all features, including AI. It lets you generate up to 5 times per day, and it also gives you unlimited access to the storage. So you won't run out. The free membership gives you just a little bit to try out, maybe a few lessons here and there, but unlimited access to storage and then also more AI usage. So all you'll need to do, and again, this will work if you're a very first time Lumio customer, you'll use the promotion code LumioPalooza, and that is available in the US, Canada, UK, and Australia. We'll be sure to post that elsewhere for you just in case you missed this, but make sure you take advantage of this special Lumio Palooza offer. And my last announcement before we get started is we are really excited to offer for the second year in a row a Lumio Back to School Bash, and that'll be on August 18th, and that'll be at 4 p.m. Eastern. This is going to be an amazing opportunity to hear from our Lumio product team. They're going to come on screen with us. They're going to share all the new things in Lumio, which by the way is so much. They have been so hard at work the last few months. They're going to share all the new things they've been up to and even give us a sneak peek as to what's coming. And I've seen some of those things, you guys, and they're pretty exciting. So make sure that you are at our Back to School Bash. It's not a webinar that you need to register for. What you'll need to do is just go to our YouTube channel, on the Lumio YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe. And then once you're subscribed, what you can also do is click that notify me button and you'll be reminded when that Back to School Bash goes live. So we're really excited to offer that. And with that, I think we're ready to welcome our presenters for our keynote. So we're trying something very new this year, and this is going to be a very unscripted podcast style conversation with educators from across the world. So the goal for today is I've brought some amazing ambassadors of ours to talk about a real teacher struggle, which we don't have enough time. So with that, I'm going to welcome in a couple of our keynote speakers. So I'm going to start with, let me see who I see first here backstage. I've got Sarah. Sarah, come on and introduce yourself.
Yes. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Sarah Arreguin. I am an education technology coach in White Settlement ISD, which is a suburb of Fort Worth, Texas. So if you're not familiar with what that role is, I get to work with quite a few different teachers at different grade levels and how they can use different types of technology that our district has adopted and purchased. And we are proud to say that we are a smart district. We have smart boards, but we also use Lumio a lot of time. And so I get to help teachers use different types of technology all day long, every day. My background was a classroom teacher before transitioning to this. So I really love Lumio.
Perfect. Sarah, we're super excited to have you here with us today. Next up backstage, I've got Anthony. Go ahead, Anthony, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Anthony Howell here. I'm getting a little bit of feedback here. What's going on? Sorry about that. Okay, perfect. So Anthony Howell, I am an educator out of Ontario, Canada, with the Peel District School Board, the second largest district in Canada. We have over 260 plus schools, so it's quite large. In my line of work, in my career, I've shifted all over from being a kindergarten to age 21 educator, supporting students across the spectrum, specializing in special education, assistive technology as a coach, similar to Sarah, then transition to a coordinating role around ed tech and AI and ushering that in, and then back into the classroom. So in my district, they kind of always move you around by design, which is, good and bad, but it's allowed me to have many different experiences to be able to at least come out here today and talk to all of you about, the pressure of time and how we fit everything in.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. All right. So we've got someone from the US, we've got someone from Canada, and last but not least, I'm welcoming Maheen to the stage. Hey, Maheen, how's it going?
Hi, Michelle. How are you? How are you, everyone? Thank you for joining in. I'm Maheen Mehmood, a Year 4 maths educator and a Lumio ambassador from the UAE. I have been teaching for over 10 years. I'm deeply involved in EdTech, always exploring how the right tools and creative approaches can make teaching more effective without burning teachers out. So today I'm really excited to sharing some practical ideas, learning from my fellow panelists, and hopefully leaving everyone with a few strategies they can take back to their own classrooms.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for being here. And like I mentioned, we're going to try something super new today. I've got a couple of questions for our ambassadors from all over the world, and let's see where we're going. So something that we hear so often is educators don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to ask the three of you, whoever would like to chat first, and we'll kind of take the conversation from there. But my first question is, if you had to think of the biggest time pressure that teachers are facing right now, what would it be? So like, Sarah, you mentioned that you're working with teachers. Maheen and Anthony, you're supporting educators as well. What is that biggest time pressure?
Well, I'll go first. I was a teacher before I transitioned to this role, and I know exactly what it is, the pressures that teachers have on time, because I used to be a teacher, and then I see teachers every day. And I would just say it's just balancing all the needs. And I envision like a Chinese acrobat who could spin a plate on one hand. And I'm like, that's a really cool, trick you can do. And then they can do another one. Then it gets a little bit more difficult. And then they might do it on their head and then their foot. That's what I envision teachers are expected to do. They can do one thing really well. Then they're asked to do another and then another. And so those different things are like, you're trying to teach students real world skills. Yes, that's a really important skill. Here in Texas, we have state mandated test, STAR test, and that's a very challenging skill to try to get all of your students to be successful in all of their subjects. And it's a hard test, along with getting them ready for the real world. And then responding to all of their needs, special education needs, or emergent bilingual needs. If we have students that are dyslexic, they have dyslexic tendencies. So that's another thing that just one teacher will have to do. And then, of course, things are changing in education technology where some districts are saying, we need you to use less technology. Our district hasn't said it, but there's been a few schools in the state that said we don't want certain grade levels like kinder, first and second to use technology at all. So our district hasn't been that strict. They want us to cut back on using it, but that means we're going to have to show teachers how to be very intentional and purposeful. And it's important that every decision that a teacher makes is very intentional, not just with technology, but how they're teaching and what they're doing with all of the students. It's just so many things to balance, and you have to be careful on what you're doing. And there's just not a lot of room for error or margin. So you want to be sure that you're making the right decisions, the best decisions for your kids, and you're helping teachers to do that in the role as an education technology specialist or a coach. So that's what I see is teachers just have a lot of expectations and a lot of things that they're trying to balance and do very well at.
Thank you for that insight, Sarah. And Anthony from Maheen, if you have anything you'd like to add on to that.
Yeah, I would like to add on to that. I believe the biggest time pressure teachers are facing right now is not just the amount of work we have, it's the feeling that everything is urgent at the same time. So, being an educator, I would say that we are planning lessons, we are adapting for different abilities, we are assessing learning, communicating with parents, and attending meetings, creating amazing resources, and is still trying to make every lesson meaningful for students. So sometimes it feels like there are not enough hours in the day to do everything to the standard we want. Because being an educator, I know that we have the innate talent of being perfect in everything. So there is no like ifs and buts in our performances. So this is something I would like to share. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad to hear that we're all kind of on the same page with what the teacher pressures are feeling right now. And in Canada, we've learned a lot from Novak Education and the Universal Design for Learning. And so what I find our teachers are struggling with the most is how to kind of prepare their lessons to provide multiple means of representation and multiple means of accessibility and engagement. And they're finding that how do they retrofit their lessons? How do they take what they already have and kind of make them accessible? And that's kind of where they're feeling that pressure. Rather than retrofitting, they really should be building from the ground up. And I love Novak Education, but when they were introduced to us in Canada, I don't know about the rest of the world, but when it was introduced to us originally, it was told that it's like you have to predict learner vulnerability the way you would when you would prepare for a buffet, so that everyone could eat at your dinner. And you're hosting this whole buffet, and whether it's pescatarian, carnivore, vegetarian, you're going to prepare and predict, and then you're going to have all these meals ready for your students. I used to work in a kitchen. It's exhausting to prepare that much food every single day, and teachers are feeling that exhaustion and that pressure. So what we're trying to reframe it around for our educators so that they feel more comfortable is that, what you want to do is allow the students to be their own chefs. They don't know how to cook yet. You're going to help them. You're going to facilitate. But instead of building at a buffet, what you're going to be doing is preparing a potluck. And every student is coming to the potluck with the food that they want to build and they want to create, and allowing them to explore the curriculum in more unique ways that are building on their strengths. So the biggest pressure is transitioning teachers away from, I got to build all these different, accessibility points and this universal UDL type of lesson, when really we should just be getting the students to be building it from the ground up and allowing them to grow in that sense.
I love that analogy, Anthony. We're preparing lessons like we're preparing for a buffet. And that actually made me think about last night. I attended a dinner party last night, and I have my own dietary restrictions right now, and there wasn't anything on the table I could eat. And so that's really interesting, the way that we're really thinking about that. But just from this first question, I'm already seeing we're all over the world again. I've got Sarah from the US, I've got Anthony from Canada, I've got Maheen from the UAE, and we're all really much experiencing the very same thing. And just kind of piggybacking off what Anthony said here, my next question, you really kind of already started to feed into it, Anthony, is what does simplifying instruction without lowering rigor look like? So I know you guys have all been in the position of both educator, coach, mentor. What does that really look like? So we're trying to simplify things, but we're also not trying to lower the rigor. What have those conversations looked like for you guys?
For me, simplifying instruction means removing unnecessary complexity while keeping the thinking challenging. It's about designing one strong task instead of 5 average ones. So being an educator, we all can agree that it takes less time to plan while we are doing such strong, less number of activities. And it takes less time to mark, but it pushes their thinking, the students' thinking further. So simplifying doesn't mean doing less or making learning easier. It means being more intentional about what actually builds understanding. So for example, being a maths educator, I might use a visual representation, ask students to explain their reasoning, and then gradually move them towards independent problem solving. It hardly takes 3 steps. Do you get my point? So like it doesn't need that. We are just preparing, we are over preparing our lessons and activities, and there is no meaning at the end that the students are not learning anything. They are not removing their misconceptions. They can't identify the errors. So with tools like Lumio, I can quickly create interactive activities. I do not need a variety of tabs on my browser to toggle between. So Lumio is one place where students can drag and annotate, make their thinking visible, discuss, think, pair, share, point out the errors, to show what is the mistake in the question, so that they are showing that they're deeper thinking about specific mathematical topic. So the goal is not to do less teaching, it is to make every teaching moment count.
I would agree 100% with what Maheen was saying, because if somebody is new to Lumio, they might feel overwhelmed with, okay, there's all these options. And that is awesome. Some people are excited about it, but some teachers may feel like, I just don't know where to start. And while you can have all of the options, like a complete buffet, if we were talking about, the original first question, you don't have to have everything. You could just have 1 or 2 items in there that you plan to use for the lesson. It's all about depth over volume, how deep you can go in the lesson, the level of rigor, the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. You want your students to be doing more of, yes, some foundational things, but higher levels of things and thinking where they're creating, where they're evaluating, and spending more time on that, having students do things instead of you creating a lot of things for your students to do. And it's just being intentional with what you create and what you have your students, what you intend to have your students do.
Yeah, I agree at 100%. And I think in a simple way is just allowing students to have more multimodal pathways and allowing them to access that curriculum just based on their strengths. So tools like Lumio and Notebook LM offer these kind of abilities to allow students to explore the curriculum using their strength rather than having to wait for an educator to kind of prepare the lesson for the needs of that student. When you have tools that kind of open up the doors for kids, it takes less off the teacher's plate and puts it, in the hands of the students. So yeah, I agree.
I'm going to go back to something that Maheen said, and you said that we need to be more intentional, and that made me think about just even being an adult in the corporate world. And beginning of this new year at Lumio, we just in our team chat, there was about 15 of us in there, and we just for fun wanted to do an activity where like, hey, let's all pick one word that we're going to use to represent 2026. And one of the most common words that we got was intentional. And I think that this can be relatable to teachers, educators, folks in corporate, just being a human being. There's always so many new things coming out, right? Like as a society, we're advancing so much with technology and we want to do all the things. As even like myself as like a wife, there's so many things that I want to try out. And I want a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And that's, I think, coming from being a former teacher myself, is like this new thing presents to me and I want to try it. I think that it's this great idea, but we really need to hone in on like being more intentional. And so that kind of actually feeds into my next question as well, is where do tools or systems, kind of like you said, Maheen, with Lumio, genuinely help you to save time versus just add complexity, right? So whereas this world, we have ed tech overload, we have so many new things that are being presented to us. So how do we use them to genuinely save us that time and not just make things more complex?
I was actually willing to speak and share my thoughts about it. And this is a coincidence that you have just asked me the same thing. I would like to suggest all educators to understand that a tool generally saves time when it solves a real classroom problem. I mean, like technology should not become another task on our checklist. It should make teaching and learning smoother. It is a facilitator. So some teachers get overwhelmed when it is a requirement of today's teaching and learning methods that technology should be part of the lesson, right? So for me, a tool like Lumio is valuable because it allows me to combine different parts of a lesson in one place. Instead of having, like I said, separate slides, preparing worksheets from scratch, different videos and activities, I can create an interactive learning journey. So when a tool actually supports you, you stop thinking about the tool at all. You are just teaching, and the technology is quietly doing its job in the background. Second of all, I would like to suggest educators, like they are already doing it, but emphasizing on collaboration. When teachers share resources and ideas, we save time collectively. So we don't all need to reinvent the wheel. So this is one of the options in Lumio where you can share your prepared lessons. You can use the Lumio library so that you are not supposed to prepare the lessons from scratch, and you can just adapt it as per your teaching style. So I will be just doing it in my tomorrow's session. It will be a hands-on a webinar. So more details over there tomorrow.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, I think when a tool provides support for educators to allow those UDL principles to kind of seep through the system, I think it allows for educators to generate different types of materials. And this is what like Lumio does. Alternative media provides the different built-in scaffolds using audio inputs and outputs. Basically, honing on the student, the strength of the student. And allowing the system to do that. That's when it becomes, a genuine help. Whereas, complexity happens when teachers have to kind of require to manually like change and configure things on the fly to meet the needs of the students. So I definitely think Lumio is a tool that allows for those UDL principles kind of to permeate through the whole system.
So when I thought of the question, where do tools help teachers save time? It makes me think about something I've actually used in Lumio, which is game-based activities, and how could that as a tool be helpful? And it's not the only one, but it could be helpful for a teacher if they're going to give a formative assessment. Whether they're using Lumio or not, students are going to need some kind of assessment so the teacher will know if they're understanding. And so I feel like that technology shouldn't be an extra thing that teachers feel like, oh, I need to learn this or include this. It should just be one way to give an assessment. Could be a game-based activity, and it could be something that kids see, oh, this is fun. Kids will have the perspective that it's fun, and teachers have the perspective of, oh, this is assessing my students. So it's a win-win. And then it gives some game-based activities can give analytics and feedback, and lets teachers know right away where students might need help. And then teachers wouldn't have to sort through all the papers if they need to see how well students are understanding something. And then they can monitor their teaching and adjust the lesson if needed, or they can give those resources to maybe an inclusion or special ed teacher to see, okay, here's what students need help, or here's what we need to review. So it's something that can be helpful with what they're already doing. They're already going to assess student knowledge, and it's just going to help them do what they're already doing in a more efficient way.
I have a really good question that just came into the chat, which I think is becoming a really hot topic right now. I'm putting it up on the screen here for us. What are your thoughts on many schools moving away from technology? Some states in the US are having K2 only use 30 minutes of tech a day and then gradually increasing for older students. This has been quite the topic lately, so I'm going to let you guys take it away with this question.
I don't mind starting on this. I've done a bit of learning from doctors and in psychology and how it rewires the prefrontal cortex of the brain and doesn't allow the myelination sheath of the neuron to form at such an early age. So we are all products of a time where we probably didn't have technology in our hands in kindergarten. So it's kind of hard for us to understand what the kids in kindergarten are actually going through right now. But I do think there is a need for balance, and we, towards the end of a student's career in school, technology is so huge, especially when it comes to getting ready for the real world and preparing students for a job that doesn't exist. So I think the need for tech involved is very important, but at a certain age. And I definitely think, those infant years of the developing years where the neurons are binding and making connections and growing, and they're forming, the emotion, the response, the social piece through those neurons in their brains. I think it's very important to kind of have some kind of balance. And I don't know what that balance is, or if it's 30 minutes or an hour, but I definitely know that there should be some kind of restraint at such a young age.
I'd like to, are you finished? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was kind of excited to answer this question. And this question has come up in our training over the summer that we've had in our district from teachers. And our department, Education Technology Department, actually supports things like this. And several teachers are like, but you work in the Education Technology Department. Why would you support less technology? And our response was, it actually requires teachers to be more intentional with what they're going to have their students do if it's 30 minutes or an hour. We haven't set a time yet, but instead of you can just use your iPad or laptop or whatever it is for as much or as little time as wanted, then they might be doing things that are not very productive, and they might just be playing. And not saying free play is wrong, but it's not as intentional for teachers with their learning time throughout the day. So it forces teachers to design or have students on there for a specific amount of time, and they want to make the most of that time. And so they have to plan exactly what their students are going to be doing. And that's what we want teachers to do anyways, to plan how to use technology and to be very purposeful with it. Because I'm not saying it's bad or good for students to be on technology. I think it's important that they are monitored and they're not just scrolling and doing whatever they want on there. They need to have some modeled lessons on here's what is good and here's what is not so good. Because when some students are at home, I don't know how well they are monitored on how they're using technology. So they do need to hear it from a responsible adult like teachers to show them what is okay on how to use technology. And that's digital citizenship, which I'm going to be leading a little session on that later today. But side note, so I'm very passionate about that. That's why I wanted to speak on this.
I would like to add here that I'm giving example of my lesson. Again, the mathematics I'm going to discuss about in my lesson about number pattern. So I'm just giving an example that giving a part of giving a specific portion of the lesson for technology, it doesn't justify with learning. Because like, for example, in my maths lesson, instead of students just writing answers in their books, using an interactive activity allows them to move numbers, test ideas, and discuss patterns with their peers. So they are actually discussing. There is a discussion going on, a mathematical talk going on in my lessons. So the technology becomes invisible because the focus remains on learning. So a good tool like Lumio should simplify the teacher's workflow and increase student engagement at the same time. It's not just like an extra, a pressure on the teacher to include it in the lesson planning.
Thank you guys so much for that. It's so important that we're able to hear just how much it means across everyone. And I think, Sarah, working in the tech department, I was hearing you say, like, someone said to you, like, hey, working in the tech department, how are you limiting the tech use? And I think during COVID, we really, teachers had so many grants and were able to get a lot of things. I myself in the classroom, I was given an interactive flat panel and I was told I had to use it all day long because they made such an investment on it, but that wasn't really the point of it, right? And so I heard what you said. And, if we limit that time, then that little time that we do have, we do make that more intentional. And I think that really ties together everything that we've talked about here, from Maheen saying we have to be more intentional, and Anthony saying the way that, all the things come together, and Sarah really talking about what that means to you as a tech integrator. And so I just want to say, I can't believe that our 30 minutes has already come to an end. I really appreciate the three of you taking the time to chat with our Lumio community today about what time really looks like in the classroom, how Lumio plays a role in that, and sharing your expertise no matter where you are in the world. I really appreciate it. This panel has been so amazing to do. We appreciate your time. And everyone, I think Maheen, Sarah, and Anthony are all part of our Lumio Educator Facebook group. So if you have any follow-up questions on anything that they've said today, go ahead and reach out on that Lumio Facebook group and ask any questions if you need. And thank you all for being here. We've got another day and a half left of Lumio Palooza. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you at the next Lumio Palooza session. Thank you, Sarah, Anthony, and Maheen.
Thank you for joining in. Bye.
Bye.